You've got to be a little bit crazy to become a publicly traded company. Somebody once characterized it as an extreme sport.
Being part of a public company is not for the faint of heart. It works well for me. It works well because I have a certain pace that I want to move at, that our board wants to move at. Public markets, the capital markets allow you to do that.
He's your CEO, he's your COO, he's your leader, he does it all.
I'm the Chief Executive Officer of DSS, which is essentially a portfolio company. We operate in a number of different areas: product packaging, biotechnology. We do some commercial lending, some securities, and some other investment management around real estate. Essentially, the DSS model is that we take undervalued assets that we believe have high potential, high ceilings.
I'm sure when you were a kid, you didn't say, Mom and Dad, I'm going to be the packaging guy when I grow up. Good afternoon and welcome to the podcast, Startup to Stock Exchange. I'm super excited today. Jason, who is our guest this afternoon, and I have become friends over the last couple of years. And, as cliche as it may sound, I think the first time we met was at one of the investment banking, holiday networking parties, and had a mutual acquaintance. And it's been smooth sailing ever since. So those of you who are paying attention, Jason Grady, he actually wears many hats, and I'm going to let him tell you about them because it's many hats and different subs and parent companies. But at the end of the day, he's your CEO, he's your COO, he's your leader, he does it all. And this is specifically for a company called DSS, which is traded on the New York Stock Exchange, ticker symbol DSS, and then a sub called Premier Packaging, which is super interesting. So with all that rambling, let me introduce Jason. Thank you for joining us today.
Thanks, Seth. Thanks to having me. I appreciate the kind words.
Absolutely. So part of what I'd love to know is a little bit about your journey and how we got here, but we're going to back into that. So tell me, snapshot of today, Premier Packaging, DSS, give me the scope. What do we look at if somebody says, what do you do? What are you about?
Sure. Let's talk about the parent first. So I'm the Chief Executive Officer of DSS, which is essentially a portfolio company. We operate in a number of different areas: product packaging, biotechnology. We do some commercial lending, some securities, and some other investment management around real estate. So essentially, the DSS model is that we take undervalued assets that we believe have high potential, high ceilings. We put those assets together. We create opportunities to provide shareholder value in that manner, okay. Right? We've built in various industries that we believe are contemporary in nature, have recurring revenue models, and have that high ceiling that I talked about. So one of the companies that I think we want to focus on today is probably our subsidiary, Premier Packaging. Premier Packaging is a consumer packaging company. So we build the highly decorative retail boxes that brands would use to sell their products. So if you walk in any grocery store, any Walgreens, any CVS, Target, Sephora, those kind of companies, medical device companies as well, we make those, the packaging of the product would be displayed on the shelf.
Interesting. I have to be brutally honest with you. When we first started talking and listening about, Premier Packaging, in my mind, packaging is probably as unsexy as being a stock transfer agent. Nothing like dynamic and exciting. But what I've come to learn from you is the magic and the science behind it, because it's not just putting together, a cardboard box. It's the whole strategy. It's the whole presentation. It's everything together. So that's a long-winded way of saying, how'd you get into the packaging business to begin with? I'm sure when you were a kid, you didn't say, Mom and Dad, I'm going to be the packaging guy when I grow up.
No, I did not. I got into packaging in a roundabout way as being a lifelong salesman, quite frankly. And it was a commodity that could be turned into more of a solution sale, which was the appeal for me, but it's also a recession-proof industry, right? So it's an industry that, people always need packaging to sell widgets, whatever that widget is, whether it's food or medical device or cosmetic or health and beauty. Those are the type of boxes we make, and those are the industries in which, there's always going to be a
do people come
for.
to you saying, hey, this is what I want, this is what I envision, or do they turn to you and say, tell me what I need? Like,
Yeah, it's interesting. So right, so what Premier is really a we help clients build packaging that successfully gets their products to market. Right, it helps bring their branding and growing their companies as responsible customer facing brands. Right, and we Premier exists solely to facilitate our customers' success. Right, in whatever markets that they might be in. I tell people all the time, we're in the pain management business. And what do I mean by that is that manufacturing of packaging, which we have 100 something thousand square feet out there, a brand new manufacturing space, is really a byproduct of what we do in that pain management. And in the things that we look at, all right, how do we really take a box to help enhance sell through? Right? How do we get customers to think and act more responsible for the environment? How do we protect their package better, whether it be on the shelf or through distribution? Right? Those are the things that we look at, and that's how we build the relationships with our customers. Customers really, they need to and they want to present better. They want to connect better, and they want to serve their customers better. And Premier is our partner, is their partner in that journey.
That's I got to tell you, Jason, I think I'm going to steal that terminology from you, that pain management, because it applies probably in a couple of different industries. But that's a great way to position what it is that you do.
It's no different than a surgeon, right? He's how do they solve pain? He solves pain through surgery, but it's the pain solving is the real magic.
Let me pivot for 1 second, because there is the role that you play of growing a very successful business at Premier, but at the same time, the balancing act of being a publicly traded company on the DSS side.
Sure.
Did you have any background in that? Did you kind of just sink or swim, teach yourself what does it mean to be a publicly traded company? How did you find that exposure or that transition?
So I did stumble upon it originally. Obviously, I had exposure to the public markets and working for companies that were publicly traded as well. But when I came to DSS, I had not previously dabbled in public markets. So a lot of it's been self-learned, self-taught, if you will. So I've been with the company now, I hate to say it, going on 15 plus years.
Wow.
And so I've had that exposure.
Especially in today's time, that is loyalty.
It's, and it's evolved. It's evolved. And in the capital market side of it, the public side of it has really been the ultimate catalyst to not only keep my interest, but to really be the catalyst to drive new growth, new, generation after generation, if you will, of company, because the company's evolved. Since I originally started, it was really centered around printing, technology, packaging. The technology was delivered through packaging and printing in its original iteration. And so that's how I came to DSS. But the company has since shed that old skin. We still obviously have that packaging company that I talked about. But again, that was one of the businesses that we looked at and said, okay, this has those attributes. It has recurring revenue. It has a high ceiling. There's an opportunity for growth, and it's a very positive cornerstone to the company. And so we kept that in our portfolio. But then we went out and acquired businesses in a variety of different areas, biohealth and securities and all the things that I just mentioned. Consumer marketing, real estate investment trusts, wealth management, and commercial lending. But the public markets are what gave us the opportunity and the vehicle in which to do that, to find those undervalued assets, to go out and acquire those companies that we thought made sense together and had potential to be turned around, if you will, or enhanced. And the public markets was obviously the vehicle to do that, to raise capital.
When people say to me, or they ask me my opinion or advice sometimes about, should they go public or should they not? They've said to me in the past, Seth, you've been doing some sort of service for publicly traded companies for 25 years. When are you going to go public yourself? And I'm just like, I know better. Like, I'm not, no, but all kidding aside, you've got to be a little bit crazy to become a publicly traded company. Somebody once characterized it as an extreme sport. And that is my segue because people want to know a little bit about you as well. You're an
Sure.
extreme sports guy, right? If
I
I'm
am.
not incorrect, it was bike riding or motorcycling or
Yeah,
what?
motocross. Yeah, motocross,
Tell us a
skiing, a
little bit
bunch of
about
different
that. What was that like? You gotta have a
things.
certain DNA
So
for that.
let me just comment on your
Okay.
first statement, which being part of a public company is not for the faint of heart. It works well for me. It works well because I have a certain pace that I want to move at, that our board wants to move at. And the public markets, the capital markets allow you to do that. You can do some of these same things in a private company. They just take longer. Access to capital, access to bankers, access to acquisition opportunities, access to assets that could be turned around, right? That's what my specialty is, turnaround management, developing companies, nurturing those companies, and then relaunching them. That's what I've done historically. So, um, capital markets give you that ability to do that fast, to do it at a much faster pace than you would in a private company typically. So that's why I like it. And it's, I got a little bit of ADD. So
Don't we all? Don't
that
we all? Yeah.
pace, yeah, that pace quells
Yeah.
some of that, right? And having the variety of different companies in the portfolio that DSS has also keeps my attention, and I can do 4 or 5 different things at the same time simultaneously. So that's been the appeal. But yeah, so I raced motorcycles for about 20 plus years.
That long? Oh, I thought it was
I got this.
like a 1-2 year hobby type of thing. That's
No, no, no. I started racing when I was about 10 years old. I turned pro when I was
I did
17,
not know that.
and I
Okay.
raced on I
Everybody's
raced
getting
on
the
the pro
scoop, the
circuit.
inside scoop here. You were pro. That's next level.
Well, yeah, I was good enough to be known, I suppose, but not good enough to make it a career. So that's why I decided to go to
Interesting.
work.
Well, 20 years sounds like a career, but okay. So you take that DNA of like wanting a fast pace, obviously between that type of
Yes,
background and public company stuff. What is, and I hope it's okay to ask this, and I'm always curious, like what does a typical day look
sure.
like for you, running this multi-million dollar packaging company and then the public company, and you and I both know that balancing between juggling the shareholders and the bankers and the darn transfer agents, all those people that you gotta keep in check. Like what does a typical day look like for you? Are you a morning guy? Do you like hit the gym at 4? Do you go to sleep at 7? What?
So yeah, so typically, right, and a lot of my board is based in Asia
Oh yeah,
Pacific.
okay.
So their
Oh,
7 a.m. is my 7 p.m. So I burn the candle at both ends, unfortunately, a lot of days. But um, you know, first of all, I have a phenomenal team around me, right? So I couldn't do this without it. There's too many companies, there's too many things to do. But I've also realized that I can't do it all myself, and so having that team in place to help put fingers in the holes of the proverbial
hmm.
dam are important. And so my day is typically, I come in, we have very good reporting here, cash flow management, customer retention, customer complaints, challenges that we have on the manufacturing side
Okay.
potentially. So there's a lot of different things that I touch upon, but again, it's all through my management team, and their ability to provide good reporting and good insight. I talk to my guys every single day, and I probably drive them crazy because I talk to them until nauseum. That's what I enjoy and what I excel at. I think our ability to be able to communicate internally is what has been the real key attribute to our success. Without that communication, without clear directives on what my expectation is or what the board's expectation is, it'd be very hard for the team members to be able to execute. So I try to over clarify, oversimplify, and make sure that there's no ambiguity when it comes to the direction of the company or where we're trying to go, whatever company it might be, DSS as a whole or the individual
To your
pieces.
credit, Jason,
Um,
I will blow some smoke at you. Like I know thousands of CEOs. I've had 100 on this show. What stands out most in terms of your quality is that a lot of CEOs that I'm friends with and they're great. The focus is strictly on like telling the story, raising capital. Like they've got blinders on. If they're more like the biotech pharma type, they're about the research and about the FDA. What stands out most for me is truly that leadership focus. Like you're very focused on what does it take to be a leader, how to communicate that internally, focused on the team, giving credit to others where credit is due. So is that something you just learned how to do? You naturally are comfortable in that leadership role? Is that something you guys work on?
I enjoy Seth. I enjoy collaboration with people in general. I enjoy these kind of conversations. I think that's what has served me well and contributed to my success as a salesman. Understanding people's challenges, removing barriers. Those are the things that good leadership does to allow team members or customers perform to the best of their ability. So I think I just continue to, live by that mantra.
No, it does.
And it's served me pretty well.
Let me switch back just because I'm curious from a packaging standpoint.
Yep.
Like I'm in my mind, I'm having this discussion with a potential customer about packaging. Do you find that
Yes.
most of the time the customers are like, Jason, just make it good enough to get out, right? Like I don't need it fancy, I don't need bells, I don't just make it good enough. Or do you find that the majority of them are like, I want it to be great. I want it to be the greatest package. Like, do you see a difference between the customer base, or does everybody just kind of say, yeah, whatever it takes to get it out the door?
We can make the biggest impact, Seth, when it's customers that are willing to have the conversation. I mean, there's folding carton companies fall into two categories, right? Guys are just out there. They walk into a customer's office and they say, please, can I quote this? And they race to the bottom of whatever the lowest price is, and that's all they care about, right? But then you got the others who participate and become participate with their clients, ask good questions, become a valuable resource for them, and really again apply that pain management principle we talked about, right? And how do we help drive clients towards a higher degree of success? Right? How do we make their packaging better? How do we make their supply chain more secure? How do we make it more recession-proof? How do we make sustainability initiatives more impactful? How do we continue to increase that sell-through? And if we're driving design and we're driving value add, and we're that player that helps solidify their supply chain, then we become the vendor that customers can't live without, and we become more valuable than their ad agency or anybody else for that matter, right? It's that same philosophy that that Apple has, right? As an example, why do people desire Apple? Why does nobody ever complain about how expensive an iPhone is, right? Because Tim Cook, Steve Jobs' philosophy, right?
I might complain about it when my kids want to upgrade, but other than that, you're right. Nobody complains about it.
Right. But for the most part, right? So businesses, at their very best, serves public good, right? And it brings people together, empowers people around the world to do whatever they're trying to do, and that's what Apple does, right? And so that's the kind of company that we're striving to be, right? That we're trying to be that company that collaborates, that focuses on serving others, that we're always working to leave the world a little better than we left it, and leave our customers in a better place than when they found us.
That's a great philosophy that I don't think too many people would have expected from a packaging company. I wanted to ask you this: since you're on the inside of so many different types of customers, I mean, you named a whole bunch of very impressive logos before.
Yes.
What would you say is the biggest misconception that people have about the packaging business? Like, if there's one thing you could let everybody know, like, hey, you're wrong. Is there one?
Yeah, well, I think it's that it's a commodity and it doesn't matter. I think that's a common misconception if you're talking simply to a procurement agent. What they don't understand, and I've experienced this, if you think about medical device companies, right? So I've been in meetings at medical device companies where you will go in and there's 10 engineers sitting at a table, and every part in that medical device is intricately important to the performance of the product. And they're trying to get this product launched, right? They're trying to get it out the door. This is a brand new product. It's going to generate $1 billion for XYZ company, and they need to get it out the door. Well, the last thing they often think about is the box that it's going to go in, right? So the iPhone doesn't sell if there's no box to put it in. So, making that, but what I try to emphasize, or what we try to emphasize, is that box is no less important than any other part in that medical device, in the iPhone, or whatever it might be. So there's equal amount of engineering, there's equal amount of thought process around branding, around display, around sustainability, around protection of the product that goes into that packaging than any other part that might be in the finished good itself.
That's very insightful, and I could see where that plays out. I ordered something over the holiday season, right? A lot of different gifts and things like that, and I did pay attention to, like, some of the packaging had like cool different sleeves to put instructions in, or some of them said, like, they had smart, witty branding on the inside, like, a welcome type message. I love that stuff, but I'm like a marketing nerd, so it's important.
Well, and listen, in today's world, right, packaging is even more important than it could be in a lot of different ways. And there's a few things that are happening. Why Premier and Premier as a subsidiary of DSS is extremely valuable. It's poised for a tremendous amount of growth for a couple of reasons, and one of those are, right, the lack of storefronts. So branding for companies, right, is just what you described. So you order something online, it shows up at your house, and it's in a corrugate box, which is plain and or from Amazon, and nobody cares. It doesn't exude your brand, but the box inside that's holding the actual widget inside that corrugate box, right, is highly decorative. You do pick it up. It does have a tactile feel. You look at it, you go, geez, wow, it's got a nice touch to it, or it's got a nice sheen to it, or look how this is cleverly designed. It's easy. It's functional. Right, Premier is the cornerstone of where brand, design come together with functionality. Right, those are the two things that we look at most. How do we give the brand what they want from a messaging standpoint and platform, and then how do we make sure that the box is functioning? It can open. Nobody likes a box that you got to take a pair of scissors to because you can't open.
That. But it's also part of the experience, right? Like, I was just thinking, like,
it is
absolutely the whole part of the whole, like, pizzazz of, like, a Rolex or a Patek is that unboxing experience. Like, sometimes the box is even more impressive than, I don't want to say the watch, but what you guys do is critical. I get it. I get it.
It's the first moment of truth on the shelf, right? So when a customer walks into a store or opens an Amazon box at their house, the minute that they see that packaging, that's the first moment of truth and the first time they've interacted with the brand. That's how important it can be. There were some companies, the P&Gs of the world and some others, right, will tell you that first moment of truth in that box sometimes is almost more important than what's actually in the box.
I agree. Well, Jason, I want to be mindful of your time. This has been super interesting. Is there anything else that you feel that the listeners might benefit, or that you want to share with them? Whether it's DSS, whether it's Premier, whether it's any of the other subs, or even about pro biking, we're all ears.
Yeah, no, Seth, I think we covered a lot of it, but a couple things. So on the public market side and going public, and I know who your audience is, and I'll tell you that provides in the right scenario a tremendous opportunity to scale like you couldn't otherwise. There's opportunities again to work with, whether it's bankers or guys like yourself on the street that have tremendous connections to be able to bring great assets together, and then raise capital to be able to go out and build something that would be bigger than you could otherwise in a private setting. But the pace is not, again, as we said, for the faint of heart. It's feverish, and you always got the shareholders looking over your shoulder, going, "Hey, what are you doing this quarter? What'd you do last quarter?"
It's funny that you position it like that, because, like, if somebody asks me about a transfer agent, I say I have two clients. I have the issuer. You say jump, and we say how high. But I also have the customer who says, like, "Hey, I want you to transfer my shares," because they're both my customer. In a sense, not necessarily a customer, but you've got the board on the top that you're focused on, and obviously everybody wants to please. And then you've got the shareholders who have invested in you. And so there's a lot of different people that you have to please in a lot of different ways.
A lot of masters. And then on the packaging side, and this is true for any company, whether it's packaging or it's the securities businesses we're in, or if it's the wealth management businesses, we're committed to demonstrating that it can and should be a force of good, right? Achieving that takes innovation, collaboration, active listening, and a focus on serving others. And that's, kind of who I and who my team represents. And that's the talk we talk and the walk we walk.
Well, now I see why you're successful, because you're a good guy. That's, in my mind, that's what it all comes down to.
I like to think so.
Let's wrap up. Anybody who wants more information about DSS or Premier, can I trouble you? Just give us the websites for both of them.
Sure. DSSworld.com. So www.dssworld.com is the DSS address. And the Premier address is www.premier.
Okay, I got to look up my own sometimes also. Like, what was that?
Yeah, premierpackagingcorp.com. I just want to make sure I get it right. So it's www.premierpackagingcorp.com.
Okay, fantastic. Jason, thank you for the time. I look forward to seeing you at the next cocktails, the next conference, the next event. Thank you again.